and welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you fresh updates from the Asian tech sector. I'm your host, Shotaro Tani, and joining me in this week's episode is our Taiwan correspondent, Thompson Chau, to talk about Taiwan's space ambitions. Thompson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Shotaro, and greetings from Kaohsiung.
Yeah, well, just tell the listeners what you're doing there at the moment.
Oh, I'm having a whole range of meetings with local stakeholders, as well as contacts to see what's going on here. It's a year before the local election next year. There's the whole maritime ministry here called the Ocean Affairs Council. So there's a lot of excitement down here.
Gotcha, and we'll likely see loads of stories from Kaohsiung in the coming days and weeks.
Fingers crossed.
So, as I said at the outset, we want to talk about Taiwan's space ambitions. The first satellite that will form Taiwan's first homegrown satellite constellation, which is called Formosat 8, is going to launch on board a SpaceX rocket, I believe, next week. Just, outline why this is a big deal for Taiwan.
Sure. So the initial satellite of Formosa 8, Taiwan's first domestically developed constellation of optical remote sensing satellites, is set to be launched very soon. When it's done, the cluster system will improve Taiwan's capabilities in handling disaster relief and security incidents. And once it is in orbit, the satellite itself, this one, will be able to pass over Taiwan once a day. So this is all very symbolic and represents an achievement for Taiwan's space agency, known as TASA, in terms of growing its space industry for economic benefits as well as for national security. I think the Taiwan legislator, Su Xiaohui, explains the significance of this launch very well. She said that Formosa 8 represents a milestone in Taiwan's advancement towards independent space capabilities. The project itself will comprise 8 satellites designed to deliver higher resolution imagery and clearer surface observations. Su also added that the breakthrough will enhance Taiwan's ability to address climate change and geopolitical challenges and strengthen Taiwan's resilience overall. Fun fact, around 84% of key components in the first satellite, what we call Formosat 8A, were developed locally with entities in Taiwan, including local manufacturers, local partners across the public and private sector. I think TASA has also previously said that in the past, similar satellites supported defense applications alongside the military. And Formosat 8, this one is expected to play a key role in national security as well. And of course, the satellite network would offer dual use potential. Some experts say that satellite imagery and other space capabilities can strengthen Taiwan's maritime domain awareness and help address a whole range of threats, such as undersea cable sabotage, as well as monitoring China's naval and coast guard activities.
Well, I guess with China becoming a bit more assertive, this is actually a prime moment. Well, Taiwan actually needed this satellite here and now to guard itself against China, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I think because of the Chinese pressure all these years, and Beijing is very keen to isolate Taiwan internationally and from a lot of the international institutions and forums. Taiwan has been struggling from the outside, but now its space investment is catching up in recent years.
Gotcha. Can you just take a step back and talk me through Taiwan's space program until now and what it has in store for the future? I mean, as I understand it, as you said, Formosa 8, domestically a first homegrown satellite constellation, but what was Formosa 1 like? What was Formosat 2 like? Give me a breakdown of the history and where it goes from Formosat 8.
Sure. So satellites represent a key pillar for TASA's space program, but TASA has made it very clear that its ambition goes way beyond just building satellites and rockets. Essentially, the agency aims to establish Taiwan's capability to domestically and independently design, operate, and sustain a long-term satellite constellation. And part of this, apart from just building satellites, is to design and improve its abilities to have rocket launch as well. So several months ago, earlier this year, officials selected Taiwan's first launch site for its own space missions in the southern county of Pingtung. Their aim is to send satellites weighing as much as 200 kilograms into orbit by 2034, so within the next 10 years. And the launch site itself in Pingtung is expected to also become operational in around 5 years.
So are they trying to build the rockets themselves as well?
I don't think they've said much about this aspect yet, but I assume that must be part of the overall plan to have your own launch site, to be able to build and also launch your own rockets and satellites. And I think part of the whole conversation we have in Taiwan is about low Earth orbit, or what we say LEO communication satellites. Because Taiwan's external connectivity right now relies a lot on undersea cables, and that is vulnerable to sabotage and external threats. Taiwan needs to come up with a solution to sustain and maintain its communication abilities in an event of a blockade or a conflict. And satellites, particularly low Earth orbit satellites, are seen as a key part of that answer.
And just explain for a layperson like me why it needs to be a constellation, not just like one or two satellites. Why does it need to be constellation?
My understanding is you need a constellation so satellites move around space and more of them can monitor Taiwan on a more frequent and regular basis. So, for example, the soon-to-be launched satellite, the first one in the Formosa 8 series, it can, I think once it's done, it will pass over Taiwan once a day. But when the whole cluster, all of the 8 sets are launched, they're expected to monitor Taiwan a lot more frequently. Then that would definitely improve surveillance and monitoring.
Mm. Thompson, just, does Taiwan have any advantages in building its own, space industry ecosystem? Obviously, Taiwan's known for companies like TSMC, and it's got a very strong supply chain in technology. But does that work in favor when the government is trying to build up its space industry?
Yeah, so Taiwan's space industry used to lag behind compared to other advanced countries. But these, in recent years, is really trying to catch up. I think one thing when we look at is the government has made it very clear it is one of their priorities. So when Nikkei interviewed the premier, Zhou Rongtai, last year, who's the head of the government in Taiwan, he highlighted how his cabinet will develop and push for developments in the ocean and space industries. And this falls into part of the broader plan by President Lai to diversify Taiwan's economy, which is, as we all know, currently dominated by semiconductor production. So artificial intelligence, AI, drones, healthcare, energy, as well as space are among the targeted emerging industries. If we look at the budget itself, TASA, the space agency, in 2024, it has an overall budget of 4.6 billion NTD, which is around 150 million USD. So that's not insignificant at all. And that's added, one of the foreign diplomats in town once told me that they do see TASA and the tech ministry as has good resources and is well placed to push ahead in terms of international cooperation.
Interesting. And would you say are the challenges of for Taiwan to develop its own space industry? In your piece about the launch, you mentioned there was a line in your piece which mentioned that Taiwan's blocked from participating in large space gatherings. Is that how is that?
Yeah.
How did that come about? And is that a challenge?
So be excluded from a lot of the conversations and institutions internationally is part of the challenge. I think that applies to a lot of the other aspects of Taiwan's governance and policies overall. According to experts, Taiwan has been excluded from multilateral space forums such as the UN Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space and the International Telecommunication Union. And this exclusion represents a significant gap in global governance. So, for example, Andrew Ye, who's head of the think tank China Strategic Risks Institute, has warned that as governments worldwide try to improve coordination, safety, and sustainability, in an increasingly congested space environment, leaving out a growing actor like Taiwan is both illogical and also dangerous. And of course, back home in Taiwan, this exclusion represents a challenge and barrier for example, space companies here, because despite being excluded, they are still expected to align with international standards to operate effectively and safely with other space assets. And I think one way ahead for Taiwan is to strengthen its international collaboration with other international actors outside the formal forums. So, for example, recently, TASA signed an MOU with the British Satellite Services company, the Satellite Applications Catapult, to expand collaboration from environmental monitoring to industrial ecosystems. And in this way, the UK can share information on international standards and practices to help Taiwan to make sure it is aligned with what other countries are doing. And I think also, if you look at what Taiwan has been pushing ahead in terms of international collaboration, it's quite clear that space capabilities are not only an economic asset, but also a way to strengthen resilience in terms of disaster response, in terms of ensuring a more secure communication infrastructure, as well as allowing surveillance and intelligence during crises.
And, how would you say, I mean, China is obviously the rival in this area, not just for Taiwan, but for other countries like Japan and South Korea with regards to their space programs as well. But how does Taiwan's space industry stack up to China? I mean, China's talking about sending astronauts to the moon by 2030, if I remember correctly. Does Taiwan have similar ambitions, sending astronauts into outer space? How does the industry stack up now, and how will it stack up in the future?
I think that the two are playing a very different game. I think compared to China, which is a lot more ambitious, it has already its vast network of satellites in space and actively building up its space program. Taiwan is really focusing on how its own space industry can catch up and also make sure that it benefits and aligns with Taiwan's own national security needs, as well as economic growth. One key mission by TASA is that for them to develop the space technology that would help intelligence gathering, geographical surveillance, and communication security. And this is directly related to what I think I alluded to earlier today. If you look at one big development 2 years ago, the French and British company Eutelsat OneWeb signed a multi-million-dollar partnership with Taiwan's Chunghwa Telecom to deploy satellites and establish coverage. The aim is to reduce Taiwan's dependence on subsea cables for external connectivity by establishing and building a low Earth orbit satellite network. The government is also in talks. I understand that the government is also in talks with Amazon on potentially collaborating in the same area, using Amazon's broadband internet constellation of satellites. And I think other options the government is currently pushing for or studying includes, for example, developing high altitude balloons to also improve and ensure more robust communication capabilities. And so I think all these fit into Taiwan's preparedness and resilience in an event of conflicts or crises. A particular concern is if things get more heated up in this part of the world, and in particular across the Taiwan Strait, China might go after its subsea cables, and that would destroy Taiwan's ability to communicate, and that would represent a very real risk. And I think Taiwan now is really working hard to address this threat.
Right. I mean, let's hope that things don't get out of hand, but it does help to prepare if things go south, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fingers crossed. Taiwan has, it's mapped out a whole variety of measures, including its space ambitions to address all these threats. And I think we'll know what the government and parliament will agree on within the next few years.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much, Thompson. And as a sign of gratitude, I will send you Japanese seafood.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
That's it for this week's episode. You can read Thompson's coverage of Taiwan's space ambitions as well as the latest Asian tech news on our website, asia.nikkei.com. You can also subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Thank you for tuning in and see you in our next episode.